And here we go. Welcome to week 3, going into week 4. We got a game in a few minutes, so apologize for the late start. Had a couple things to do, but we are here before week 4, so we just made it in time. All right. Recap of last week. I blew out Brad 151 to 58. Gaddy wins 110 92 over Dooley. Reed 133. Sidnam 93. Rusty 109. Ted 100. Carbs 125. Bobby 94. And Tyler, I don't know if that's the record for the most points, but most this season, 181 to 89 for Matt. So some changes. I thought the top 3 was really close. It's really a toss-up at that point. And then I kind of thought 7, 8, 9 were really a toss-up to me. You'll see. But I just wanted to preface that as we get into the rankings. 1, 2, and 3, all very close. Coin flip. 7, 8, 9, coin flip, honestly. Okay. Big drop, but I'm starting at 12. It's not Bobby. It's Brad. Now, Brad was at 7 last week, so I know that's a big drop. And why is that such a big drop, you're asking? Well, first of all, he scored the least amount of points so far, and it was the 58 burger last week. But there's more concerns. The tight end production with Andrews and Ferguson has not been there. And then you look at the future. McCaffrey, I heard, might be out for another couple months now. Like, he might just be out for the season at this point, or if he does come back, it would be closer to playoff time for the 49ers. So McCaffrey is obviously a big miss to any team, but I think with Brad's team being the way it is and Hopkins not doing much either, like, I think Brad's team might be in trouble. And, if you lose McCaffrey, anybody's in trouble, but it's definitely going to be hard, I think, and especially with the least amount of points scored. So Brad's at 12. Bobby at 11 moves up from 1. I'll let 12 to 11 here. Neighbors is a beast. Marv is a beast. So I think there's going to be good production there. And then obviously really depending on the rookies, really relying on Jaden Daniels. And there's obviously Love and Hurts on his roster too. Can the rest of the lineup do a little bit there? But don't really hate where Bobby's at here at 11. And I think the team can progress and continue to get better as we head into the later part of the season. Matt at 10. Now, Matt's the only 0-3 team, so had to move him down from 6 to 10. The points, he's still in the middle of the pack in points for, but you're really only separated by maybe 10 to 15 points, if that. But he has the most points against by a lot. Matt has 430 points against. No one's even, I think some people like in the 360, 370 range. So you're talking about an extraordinarily large amount of points against so far this week. But Ayuk and DeAndre Swift have been terrible, have been zeros. Now, will Ayuk get better as the season goes on? Will he steal from some? Will Jawan Jennings kind of get more of the shine? I don't think so long term. Maybe last week, but Ayuk is still trying to get involved with the offense there. So Dooley moves up a couple spots. Dooley's at 9. I think the backs are better than you think with Singletary and Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson has shown that he can be a number 1 back, and Singletary, minus the fumbles, has been pretty good for the Giants. Can the rest of the team step up for Dooley? But I think I'm okay with him being in the 9 spot here. Sidnam at 8, I was going to get to it, but the big trade for Kenneth Walker, rebuilding for the future with a lot of draft picks, Reed trying to go all in for this year to win with his team. I think it was a good trade for both sides. I really do. I think Sidnam's team has a lot of older players. I know Roma Dunze on the bench is going to be a future cog for the team. Get some draft picks, rebuild, and I think Sidnam's team's going to be good long-term. Reed, I like the move too, going all in, one of the top teams in the league this year. You add that handcuff with Charbonnet and Walker, so I thought it was a good trade for both sides. Rusty at 7, good week. I like very top-heavy the team. The problem is if there are injuries to that core, NTN, Taylor, Tyreek Hill, I kind of think the team is going to fall a little bit off. But I do like the Zach Ertz. I do like the Zach Ertz pickup. I think he and Daniels have something going there in Washington because I think he's a kind of a go-to kind of blanket guy. And I do like T. Higgins coming back, being good. The Bengals are going to be in a lot of games this year where they're going to be, their defense is awful. So they're going to be on the field a lot. Joe Burrow is going to be throwing a ton, which means T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, those guys are going to have big games because they're always going to be down. They're always going to be thrown because their defense is awful. We saw that on Monday Night Football. Ted, down to 6, was at 4 last week, moves down to 6. 1 and 2, but look, the injuries are a problem. Tua, we don't know if he's ever going to come back. Keenan Allen has not played yet. TJ Hawkinson, we know his IR situation. Nick Chubb, we know his IR situation. The depth is good. CeeDee Lamb has not yet produced to where he could. He could very well go off on the Giants tonight. But I think you can see if the guys come back off the IL and Ted's team kind of comes into form, I do think that he could be right there in the mix. But right now, I got Ted at 6, 1 and 2, but still okay in terms of points for. Carbs at 5. I think this is a good spot. 5th in points for, has a good margin over the next guy in that spot. The backs are great. Montgomery's been great despite having Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield as well. Josh Jacobs is going to get a lot. Ramondre Stevenson, despite being on a terrible New England offense, is going to be a factor. I know he had a bad game last week, but I kind of believe in his stock long term. Without, can the Dolphins get a quarterback for Jalen Waddle? That's going to be the question. Can he get that second receiver? Is there going to be maybe a trade that's going to have to be made to get that guy? Who knows? But I think the way Carbs teams played, and Josh Allen is just the best fantasy quarterback. He just is. He lit up the he blazed up the Bills. He lit up the Jaguars on Monday night. He lit up the Dolphins a couple weeks ago. Josh Allen is the best fantasy quarterback. And if you have the best fantasy quarterback, you can kind of mask other parts of your roster that aren't necessarily as strong. I'll put myself at 4. I'm 4th in points for. Had a big week last week against Brad. Put up 151 points. Not having Mixon, but I had Juwan Jennings on my bench, so it could have, if I had played him, I might have been able to beat Tyler's score, but it would have been close. But happy where my team's at. I think I'm sitting there right at 4, and I think I'm still below the other 3 teams just by a little bit. I'm putting Tyler at 3. I said 1, 2, 3 was very close. It was a coin flip, but Tyler is 2 and 1. He did put up 181 points last week. Now that is impressive. Henry and Barkley, just incredible stats. But you put 83 up the week before. So is it going to be one of those up, down, up, down, up, down? Come postseason time, you could have that dud. Only concern. But otherwise, I kind of think Tyler's team is just fine. I think he'll get Cooper Kupp back at some point, and I think the team's going to come into form. But Reed at 2, 3 and 0. Obviously I put him ahead of Tyler just because of the record. He's 3 and 0. Tyler's 2 and 1, even though Tyler has the most points scored in the league so far. All in on the Kenneth Walker trade. We talked about that. Devontae Smith out, but you get him back, and he still has Puka Nacua coming back. I know the Rams have a bye. I think is it next week or 2 weeks from now? So Puka Nacua could come back and be a factor for the Rams. So I think Reed's team's in really good shape, and you add that handcuff with Walker and Charbonnet. I think that's going to be, that's why you're at number 2. And number 1 is still Gaddy. Won last week, still 3 and 0. It's really close. And I know he's technically 3rd in points for behind Reed and Tyler. But I think you look at the roster, you look at the construction of the team, if it's, might be a little more top heavy, but with Adams and Jefferson, Rashee Rice, Bijan, Kamara, Mahomes, team is loaded. I think when it's all comes together for Gaddy, I think he has the best starting roster in the league. But honestly, it was a coin flip between him, Reed, and Tyler. It really was. So I don't think you guys are separated by too much. And next week we could be talking about a completely different ranking. So go Giants. I hope we get a win. I'm not really sure. But sorry about the delay on the power rankings. I will be a little more prompt next week.